Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to another Gotham Knights commentary. If you find yourself enjoying this video at any point, be sure to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for weekly Gotham Knights videos and turn on the notification bell so you know when I upload future Gotham Knights videos. In this video, I wanted to talk about the map for Gotham Knights because we know a surprisingly large amount about what the map is going to look like in Gotham Knights. First of all, in the opening gameplay footage, we actually do get to see a bit of the map. The biggest change with the map in this game versus in Batman Arkham Knight or Batman Arkham City, let's say, is the fact that there are actually civilians in the game. We see in the opening Mr. Freeze side mission here that there actually are cars crashing around you as you're driving on the Batbike, so that is a new element to this game that we've never seen before in any type of superhero video game in the Batman universe. Later on in that gameplay footage, we do get a panorama view of the city, and as you can see, it's gigantic. You can see Wayne Tower here in the background, and it's a little bit snowy because of what's happening in the mission here. Mr. Freeze is like freezing this area of Gotham, and it's unknown which borough of Gotham he is in, because another interesting fact about this city is that it is divided into 5 boroughs. Much like the Arkham Knight map was divided into 3 islands, this map is divided into 5 different areas. I don't know specifically if it's going to be different islands, but I certainly envision that this map will be substantially larger than the Arkham Knight map, perhaps just under twice as large, with having 5 boroughs instead of 3. Now, the interesting thing about the map in Gotham Knights is that the map is specifically designed to coincide with the narrative and plot of the game, mostly through the Court of Owls. So, of course, as many of you know, the Court of Owls are a secret society / villainous group in the New 52 comics. They were introduced by Scott Snyder in the New 52 run. And we're introduced to this character named Talon, who is this sort of ninja samurai looking dude. And we later learned that there are actually multiple Talons, and that there's this whole room where they keep dead Talons and dead people a part of the Court of Owls. So it's this really, really weird secret society. And the main thing that all the members of the group have in common is that they are exorbitantly wealthy. And as we've seen from this screenshot here, the most prominent families in Gotham have actually created this sort of turf war where they own certain boroughs of the city. So in this screenshot here, we can see the Elliott family, which is the family of Thomas Elliott. Now, Thomas Elliott and Bruce Wayne in the comics, you can read Batman Hush, are best friends when they're growing up. They are extremely close, and especially when they're around, I'd say 9 to 10 years old. And then they grow apart and have this whole feud that is explained in the Batman Hush graphic novel that I won't delve into all the details here, but I assume they will be explored in the game. So Bruce Wayne and Thomas Elliott, the Elliott family, is going to be one of the 5 boroughs. I assume the Waynes are actually going to have a borough because they have so many buildings and so much real estate that they own in the city of Gotham, and they have also this large philanthropy network that I assume they will own a neighborhood in Gotham as well. I also probably assume the Cobblepots will be one, and a couple of other wealthy families, probably the Falcones. That's 4 right there. I'm not exactly sure who could fill the 5th spot. Potentially Ra's al Ghul through like some secret, back end. Maybe Hugo Strange, kind of a similar Gotham City, Arkham City type of plot where it's Ra's al Ghul operating vis-a-vis, Hugo Strange. That's something that I could potentially see happening. But anyway, I can pretty confidently say that it's going to be the Waynes, Cobblepots, Elliots, and Falcones are for at least 4 of the 5 boroughs, and I'm not exactly sure who the 5th one is going to be. So there's going to be this sort of ongoing turf war, and essentially these islands are being owned and are connected to the Court of Owls because almost all of these families have some level of connection to the Court of Owls, and that's why there's going to be this huge spiraling conspiracy plot set up in the game, because there are so many connections to the Court of Owls through the wealthy families, and who knows, we could even learn, similar to what we learned in Batman the Telltale series, that the Wayne families actually has some dirty money in their portfolio connected to the Court of Owls and other secret society evil, illegal activity. In fact, I would be shocked if there is not some element of the Wayne family participating in the corruption of the Court of Owls and the villainy of the Court of Owls, because part of the departure of Bruce Wayne in the story is actually to signify the rise of these new heroes. And you'll notice something interesting about all 4 of the heroes in our game. Of course, that is Batgirl, Red Hood, Nightwing, and Robin, is that all of these characters come from either middle-class backgrounds or lower-class backgrounds. In the case of Jason Todd and Dick Grayson, they come from, I would call, lower-class backgrounds, and I would say that Barbara Gordon and Tim Drake come from middle-class backgrounds, but certainly not upper-class. That obviously is very different from Bruce Wayne, who is born with a silver spoon in his mouth, and I think that part of the the signification of that and importance of that is that you're actually creating sort of this new era of protectors of Gotham who do not come from the same lap of luxury as Bruce Wayne comes from. Additionally, there is something very impressive about the fact that they became heroes without any of the resources to do it. I mean, Bruce Wayne, came out of training with Ra's al Ghul, if we're following the Batman Year One type of timeline, where he goes away for several years and trains, comes back, and essentially just buys a bunch of shit. He spends like millions, tens, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars on high-tech equipment that he kind of builds himself and has some knowledge in that area with Alfred, but also just has an exorbitant amount of wealth. And that amount of wealth allows him to become a really good hero right off the bat. He's not perfect by any means, and he becomes better through the years as he gets more tech and gets more money. But the reality of it is he certainly had an advantage early on with all the money that he had. Meanwhile, we look at Batgirl Year One. We look at Jason Todd's origin story. Jason Todd is literally discovered by Batman when he is taking the tire off of the Batmobile, stealing it to make a couple $100 off of the Batmobile wheel. And that's when he gets caught as literally a thief trying to steal a couple $100 worth of value that Bruce Wayne wouldn't even notice if it was stolen, in terms of, $400 or $500 for a wheel or whatever. Okay, maybe the wheels on the Batmobile have a bit of a premium, but the wheels on my car cost about that much. So anyway, I say all of that to say there are a lot of unique plot elements that they can explore in the game by having this new generation of heroes that simply do not come from the same background as Bruce Wayne. I think that is interesting, and perhaps connecting the Wayne family into some level of corruption or some involvement in the Court of Owls. I mean, after all, that's what we've all been asking for. I think a lot of us have been asking for the Wayne family to have some involvement in the game, to have Bruce Wayne involved in some way, potentially even Thomas Wayne, and that is one way they could do it, is having his legacy implanted onto the map itself and involved in the story with the Wayne family and Bruce Wayne in particular, Wayne Tower potentially being involved in the plot in some way, but actually not having Bruce Wayne in the game himself. Now, I've run polls in the past. The vast majority of fans that I have polled, which my constituency and viewership is a pretty good representation of the broader fan base at large, given how much of my fan base is interested in Gotham Knights and that game coming out in 2021. With that context, I will say that the vast majority of fans that have voted in my polls have signified that they want to see Bruce Wayne / Batman in the game in some way, whether that be DLC, whether that be some character arc that is not being revealed right now. Who knows what that could entail. Maybe even flashbacks people would be okay with. But the majority of people that I've polled, and I would say perhaps even an overwhelming majority, have expressed interest in seeing Bruce Wayne in the story. However, I will say that public opinion will change over time, as it always does. People will become more used to the fact that Bruce Wayne isn't involved. If it is indeed true that he is not involved. I'm not particularly convinced if that's the case. I happen to have this suspicion that the Wayne family and Bruce Wayne will have at least some involvement, but I can't exactly predict, of course, what that is. But that seems to me to be something that would be very interesting to explore and something that WB Montreal probably can't resist. However, here's the curveball. WB Montreal received a lot of flack for their involvement and incorporation of the Joker into Batman Arkham Origins. And what was the main problem that fans had with that story? Is that there was some level of deception with the inclusion of the Joker. That is the biggest thing that I see critiqued over and over and over again about Batman Arkham Origins. If we're talking about Batman Arkham Knight, it's a very consistent complaint. It is the Batmobile. If we talk about Arkham Asylum, it is a very consistent complaint, and the main thing that people say they don't like about that game is no free roam, and the map isn't big enough. In Arkham Knight, it's the Batmobile. Arkham City, I don't know, that game's perfect. But anyway, besides those three, with Arkham Origins, the big complaint was that the Joker was included in this kind of bait-and-switch type of way that fans thought was disingenuous and didn't work very well with the plot, and they said and marketed it to be a non-Joker game, and it ended up being a Joker game, and fans felt cheated, and this and that. I happen to quite like the way the Joker was introduced in Batman Arkham Origins, at least when it comes to the reveal itself. The reveal is just so good, and the way it's produced with the music and the way it swells and everything you just saw, I mean, it's really, really good. And I don't mind seeing the Joker, and in fact, speaking of polls, the vast majority of fans that we have polled show that they actually want to see the Joker in this game too. Now, what we have seen is that most people do not want the Joker to be the main villain of the game, so for instance, people would not like to see some reveal where it turns out that Talon is actually the Joker. I'm not suggesting that they go in that direction because I've consistently seen fans say they don't want that either. But To the same point, I have seen a lot of people say that they do want to see the Joker involved in a side mission type capacity or in the side narrative capacity where he's perhaps not the main villain, but plays the main role in the story. Look at Mask of the Phantasm for an example of a story structured like that, maybe even Batman Hush. So it's been done in the past consistently well. I think it's something that W Montreal could pull off, and I hope that they try to, because the Joker is such an incredible villain, and we get to see Batman face off with the Joker time and time again in the comics and movies and video games, but we have seldom ever seen a standalone story where, Batgirl and Jason Todd are facing off against the Joker. Obviously, Jason Todd just gets killed by the Joker, Batgirl just gets shot by him, but we don't really get to see much of what precedes that or follows that in terms of, if I got shot and paralyzed and then managed to recover from that, and I get to come back and face the person that paralyzed me, as we saw in the New 52 Gail Simone run, which is legendary, by the way, of Batgirl, then I'd be pretty pissed. I'd be like, where's the Joker at? I'm going to go kill this dude, And I think that that's the reaction that Batgirl has and struggles with, where she is constantly faced with wanting to kill the Joker. Same with Jason Todd, and that is obviously explored in Under the Red Hood. And I think that Batgirl also has that same level of animosity and hatred for the Joker, which I think is stronger than their hatred for that Batman has for the Joker, because Batman really disdains the chaos and evil that the Joker brings into the world. But Batgirl and Red Hood also despise that, but they have a more personal vendetta against the Joker than Batman ever has. So I think that makes a really compelling story that you can include the Joker in, and I think it'd be a mistake not to include him. That's my biggest concern, because I used to be the guy who would always retweet jokes about the Arkham Origins Joker reveal. I tend to agree with people that it is a little bit forced. As I said, I really like the way it's structured, and I think it overall is pretty good, but it was presented in an inauthentic way. It was not really marketed in an honest way, because they tried to deceive us to make us think that the Joker wasn't involved. I would prefer them to just not say anything, say nothing about it, and just say, if anybody asks about the Joker, just say, you have to wait and see. Maybe, maybe not. We're not going to talk about villains beyond what we've already revealed, which is basically Mr. Freeze and Talon and the Court of Owls. And I think they should keep it that way, quite frankly, and they should not say anything about the Joker, but I would really, really love for him to show up, and also just to get to see W. Montreal's take on the Joker. We got to see Troy Baker play the Joker in Arkham Origins, which W. Montreal developed, but I think that this provides an avenue for W. Montreal to really create their own unique version of the character, which we've seen, the Gotham TV show do. We've seen Batman Arkham do, to some extent, mirroring more of the animated series. We got to see, obviously, Suicide Squad do this. We got to see Joaquin Phoenix do this in the 2019 Joker movie. So there is so much creative freedom that we're now being seen established for the Joker character, and we'd like to see more of that develop as time goes on, with W. Montreal bringing their own take on the character in 2021. But anyway, that's pretty much the tea on the map in Gotham Knights, with a little bit of me rambling about other thoughts about the game. So yes, 5 boroughs expected to be a little bit bigger than the map in Gotham Knights, and in Arkham Knight, and expect this map to also feature a lot of civilians, some verticality. Again, those different boroughs are being sort of established and owned by different crime families and different Gotham families, particularly the Waynes, the Cobblepots, the Elliots have been confirmed, and assuming that there will be other villains thrown in there, that is sort of designating the different areas of the city. And it's going to be really interesting to see how that sort of crafts the story and broader narrative of the game as well. And I assume that all 5 of these boroughs are going to be completely unique to one another, and it's going to be interesting to see how they're designed. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up again, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and leave a comment down below with your thoughts on the Gotham Knights map and what we know about it so far. And let me know if you'd like to see Gotham Knights at the Game Awards in the comments section below. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Shout out to all of my elite members. Make sure you join the Slickmoff YouTube membership program in the comment section below, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.